Hi everyone, we're back with the 2020 Biz Kickstart event, and we're talking all things books today and how to make our money with the book. And I'm joined with Luana, who's going to basically give us the ins and outs of how the whole thing works. So say hey Luana, tell people about you and how you got started.
Hello, really awesome to be here. Thank you, Mike. Oh gosh, well, my background started with acting, and I ran an acting academy over in the UK, and I decided I wanted to move to Portugal to open an animal sanctuary. So I started to create more freedom in that business so that I can skip the country and go do other stuff. So then I thought it was logical to write a book about it so that I can help other people to do the same. Now, that was my first best-selling book, Passion to Freedom. And at the time, I was only just building this new business as well as my acting academies. And things really shifted for me after publishing the book. Things shifted on a massive scale. And I thought, wow, well, you know, this is it. I was able to bring in more clients. I started traveling internationally for speaking engagements. I was booking media interviews. I mean, I'd been in the media for a long time anyway, but now I was able to go on and talk about my business, you know, rather than other stuff. And it had such a big effect on me in two ways. One, in the way that I perceived myself. It's like, I guess before then I was like, well, can I be teaching this stuff? Am I enough of an expert? You know what it's like to be teaching that stuff. Do I know enough? I'm sure a lot of people watching this will have similar doubts. You know, whenever you're doing something, there's these thoughts that come up. But getting that book out confirmed it to myself. So it was a very personal thing. It confirmed it to myself. Well, I've written a best-selling book on the subject, and so of course I can teach it. And also in how I was perceived on the outside. So, you know, it was twofold. So because of that, I decided I wanted to help other people to do the same. So I asked my book coach to take me through the process. So I did my book certification, learn everything there is to know about books, but very specifically how to use a book to make money. And it's not through book sales. I just want to make that clear. I don't focus on selling books. And so that surprises some people, but I don't. That's not where I specialize, but yet I specialize in making money from books.
So if it isn't book sales, then where do most authors make their money? Because you see a lot of bestsellers, you might sell a course alongside it that goes a bit deeper than the book. I mean, there's a whole lot that goes into sort of, it's not just a book. But if that's not where you focus, where does the majority of the income, if you will, come from?
It comes from what they use the book for. So the first thing that I ask people when they're interested in working with me is, why do they want to write the book? And an answer that I will get very often is because I want to help people, which is great. So that's awesome. But then we dig a bit deeper to find out what they really want. And generally, as well as helping people, it's that they want to use it to bring in more clients to their business, to make more money and to create more opportunities. So they want to get themselves seen. They want to get their voice heard. And so, you know, when people tell me they want to make money, it's then, okay, have you already got a business? If they've got a business, then that book needs to align with their main offer. And there's a very specific way of writing it and in being able to use it so that it does have that effect. And so as well as helping them to write the book. I help them to build a strategy on how to actually use it to increase their earnings. So, you know, if they don't have a business, then it's figuring out, okay, what is the book that you're writing, and what can it lead up to? Now, you mentioned online courses. Well, they're fantastic. And that's exactly what I did with my book, Passion to Freedom. That's exactly how I did it. I had the book, and that led into my course. I didn't do any promoting for my course whatsoever. I think I did something like 2 posts on social media and I ran it for a year. And, you know, it just came through the book. And I did that on purpose because my acting academies, I'd let it get extremely complicated. So I wanted to strip everything back, and I wanted to see how much I could do purely through my book. I am active on social media as well. So, you know, it's not replacing one thing with another, but I wanted to see how basic I could have things. So at that time, I didn't have any landing pages. I didn't have a website. I didn't have any of that stuff. I didn't do any paid advertising, nothing. I just had the book. The book led to speaking engagements and media opportunities. I gave the book to people. And this is a good thing to do with a book. You know, if you've got a book, right, everyone will have, if you run a business, you will have people constantly who are sitting on the fence about working with you. So you know that they want to, but they're not quite taking the leap yet. They're just sitting on that fence, and some of them just don't move off that fence ever. Mm-hmm. Some of them will go in the opposite way that we want.
Yeah.
But if there is somebody on the fence, sending them a paperback version of your book, I've never known it to fail. I've never known it to fail. Mm. If they are genuinely on the fence, you know, if they're not, if you're not, you know, you could be sending it to here, there, and everywhere. But if that person is genuinely interested and they genuinely want, because it builds trust, it builds credibility, it allows that person to see how you work. So if they get to the end of that book and they were already considering working with you, they're working with you.
Yeah.
Unless they start reading the book and realizing that you're not aligned with what they want, in which case you wouldn't want to sign them up anyway. Let's be honest, because they're not the right person then, are they? Yeah, but I've never known that to happen. I have only ever known people to go in the right way when they have been sent the book.
You do hear stories of like books being very good business cards. Is that still something that works today?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You know what? There's a lot of other ways of absorbing material these days. So some people love books. My number one choice is always books. So it makes sense, you know, that I'm teaching this stuff. It's how I like to absorb information. Other people will prefer videos, live streams, and all of that stuff. My first choice would be text. And people are different. You know, some people will prefer audio, in which case there's an audio book, you know, there's already a solution there, or videos, and there's no need to choose, you know, have it all. Have your content so that you're able to reach everybody. So if somebody prefers a visual, they can go onto your YouTube. If somebody prefers text, they can read your book. Do you know what I mean? So you're giving options. Now, what a book, because you mentioned business card, and I've heard that like the book is the new business card. Somebody once said to me that a book is like a business card on speed, and I quite like that. I can't remember who told me, otherwise I'd credit them. I can't remember. I just found it really funny. But the thing is, it's becoming expected now. Times are changing, and a book has gone from something it's still quite, if you think of it in terms of how many coaches there are, how many entrepreneurs there are, and how many have actually got a book, it is still quite a small amount, but it's becoming bigger all the time. And so it's starting to be expected now, where if people don't have a book, then it's going to, what am I trying to say? Like, if people expect a book now a lot more than they used to. So where it used to be, I've got a book, now it's, well, that's what's expected. If you're an expert, surely you've got a book on the topic. Does that make sense?
I suppose it does make sense to a certain degree. Like, everyone that is anyone that's worth their salt, so to speak, has got something that puts them there, something that something
that people, and it needs to be, yes. So it could be, a podcast that's doing really well. It could be a TV show, but they have something that it's proof, because anybody can go out there and say, okay, let's think of a topic, something I don't know anything about. I don't know anything at all about website building. Okay. Now I could go out today and do a really cheap course on website building. I could spend 30 quid on a course. I could learn it in a day. I wouldn't be very good at it, but I could go out there and say that I'm now an expert on that topic. However, there's no way in the world I'd be able to write a book on the topic. There's no way in the world I'd be able to sustain a podcast or a TV show on the topic. So these things are the things that separate somebody who is perceived as, they could just be somebody who's dipping their toe in the water, or somebody who, no, I'm the real deal. Because these are the things that take effort, they take knowledge, they take confidence. And they're not something that just anybody can do. If somebody was to start a book and they're not really that passionate or knowledgeable on the topic, they're not going to get to the end of the book.
Is there a difference as well between the different bestseller lists as well? So
yes.
I say this as someone, I read a blog on it, I can't remember how many years ago it was, where like Amazon bestseller is becoming quite easy to do.
Do you know what? I'm glad that you brought this up. I'm glad that you've brought this up, because this has been something that I've been wanting to shine a light on, actually. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference between an Amazon bestseller and a New York Times, for example, bestseller. Now, the way Amazon works... I also
hear New York Times bestsellers all the time now. I don't know whether it's just because it's the people I started to hang around with, or...
It probably is.
Like every Tom, Dick and Harry's got a New York Times best-selling book, so...
I can assure you that every Tom, Dick and Harry does not have a New York bestseller. It's incredibly tough to get a New York bestseller. So I would say that it's you that's leveled up, that you're surrounding yourself with super high achievers. That is a very, very, it's a complete different ball game. It's a complete different ball game. Now with the Amazon lists, the way it works is that Amazon, they compile their list from a sudden burst of sales, combined with being in the right category and the right keyword. So that's how the Amazon list works. They're updated very regularly as well. And it's a lot easier when you know the system. So when you know how the Amazon system works, then it's a lot easier. It's more about knowing the system. It's not based on the overall sales. I'm not an expert in New York Times bestseller, but they're compiled weekly of the overall sales of that week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't really get away with getting a sudden sharp increase of sales and then that's it, boom, it's bestseller.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
is
They are worlds apart.
Is the Amazon bestseller, is that based on like from launch day or something? Is that how it tends to work, or does it not?
No, not at all. No, it can be at any time. It can even be on the pre-sale. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But you know, I would still recommend doing the Amazon bestseller. I mean, I run the bestseller campaigns myself. They're more for, what's the word?
Well, it comes across to me like it is a perceived thing. It's like, do you have
It
a
is.
book,
It's
or do you have a
That's
best-selling
it.
book?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what it's really good for is things like getting into the media. So if you're going on to, say, a TV show and they want to introduce you and they want you to sound awesome, then they're going to say best-selling author Bob Harper rather than online coach Bob Harper, because it sounds it is, but you're absolutely right. It's the perception. It's the perception. And like it or not, people perceive it as being more valuable if it's a bestseller.
Yeah.
So I would,
Perfect sense.
yeah, so I would still recommend doing the Amazon bestseller. But if you can get your book to New York Times bestseller, that's going to be a hell of a lot more valuable.
It does seem like, I mean, because everyone can sort of start it or write a book somehow. You mentioned before that it's still perceived as valuable, even though a lot of people can do it. Is that for a particular reason, or is it simply because even though a lot of people can do it, it's almost like the barrier for entry is so low, but the barrier for success is still at the same point? But then you just mentioned that, well, if you know how Amazon works, you can sort of game that system as well. So is it that people perceive it as being harder than it actually is, so people still value it? Like, where does the story come from around being an author, being a bestseller, still being valuable, even though more and more people can actually do it?
Yeah, good question. So first of all, it's showing that you are going to that extra, that you are doing everything that you can. Does that make sense? Not sure if this is coming across very well.
It's all right. I mean,
I'm trying to
actually quite
articulate
glad that
myself.
I've sort of stumped you with a question, to be fair, because
Yeah, you're asking questions that I'm not used to getting, and that is a good thing. That's a good thing.
Because
So
from my own sort of processing of it all, it's who it's perceived as being valuable to.
that's it. That's exactly it. Okay, here's the truth. Most people don't know the difference. Most people don't know. If you're a best-selling author, most people would never even question, well, where are you a bestseller? Some will, but most don't. And in fact, I know people who have a best-selling book on Amazon and who have a best-selling book on New York Times. Not much difference in the results that they got. They got a lot more sales with the New York Times, but as far as how it's impacted their business, what I've been told, because I don't have a New York Times, what I've been told is that there wasn't much difference there. So that shows me that the Amazon bestseller does, that it does still give that credibility.
Yeah.
But yes, it's perception. It's all about perception, and a lot of it will be subconscious as well.
Yeah. What I find interesting as well is it depends who you talk to, right? Like if you talk to fellow authors and fellow experts, they're like, oh yeah, I've got an Amazon best-selling book, but it literally lasts like a day. And then
sometimes not even a day.
Yeah,
They're
and then they get
updated
the
hourly,
badge.
so it could be an hour.
Yeah, so and then we get the badge, and then they can use it. I think that can be what it comes down to, right? It's it's not about the badge as such. It's about what you do with it. Because you mentioned
It's everything about what you do with it. Yeah. It's nice to have that bestseller title, and it does help a lot, like I said, with things like media. And most people don't question where's the bestseller results come from. Having said this, I want to be really clear that I would never want people to be misleading. So, like you said, well, they're only there for the day. So for example, if somebody's knocked Tim Ferriss off the top spot, well, they might have only done that for an hour. So great, that's awesome. It's good fun, but be honest about it. Say, hey, I knocked Tim Ferriss off only for an hour, but hey, don't say, oh, I've beat Tim Ferriss. So, be real and honest about what it is. That's something that I really want to get across.
Yeah.
These things are there to help boost. Yeah. So, they're there to position us, as experts. Yeah. And it works. But
You mentioned media as well, didn't you? And it was like, so if you use the book to get into media, I would imagine the media helps with the book sales and then the business sales.
Yes!
And all sort of snowball from there.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's like, it's not one or the other. They both complement each other. And what's also needed for it to work is a strong social media strategy. And then it's like a circle, like a merry-go-round that keeps on giving to each other.
Yeah.
So a book isn't the marketing strategy. The media isn't the marketing strategy. Social media gets you to a certain point, but with all of those combined, now that is a winner.
Yeah.
And it is all about perception, but also not being misleading, being real with it and being honest with it.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with that. And I think it's worth people just realizing that side of it as well, because I don't want people to think that it's dead easy, but I also don't want people to think that it's dead hard, because I've supported authors that have got a book coming out, and they all do it. They all send me the text messages and the emails saying, I've got a book coming out. It's coming out at about 9:30 in the morning. Would you be able to buy a book or recommend it or whatever?
Yeah.
It's all based on like that that's why they the time.
Yeah. But do you know what, Mike? It's so exciting. It is so exciting, and I love seeing authors go through that process and then seeing themselves at number one. It's great fun. It's exciting and it's great fun.
Yeah, and I think if we treat the book as, I mean, you're probably gonna agree or not agree, but I think if we use book that sort of, it unlocks the doors, right? Like the amount of people that I've seen have gone, when I got the bestseller, I just put myself out there to different places that I never would have got into if I
Yes. Do you know when I was saying earlier about what happened when I went to bestseller?
Yeah.
It's because Here changed.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm a best-selling author now. Now I can take this book, so this is what I mean when I say, well, half of it is your own perception of yourself. Yeah. It really is, because you start taking, well, you know this anyway, because you're a mindset expert, but you start taking actions that you may not have previously that you may not have felt worthy of doing
But then to a certain
before.
extent, they wouldn't have said yes if you didn't have the book. So you can believe, so you can put
Yeah.
yourself out there. You say, yeah, I'm going to do
Yes.
it, but then
Yeah.
you're never going to
It's a
say
combination of them both. It's a hell of a lot easier to get into the media with your business if you've got a book on the topic. If you've got a best-selling book on the topic, makes it even, it makes it even easier again.
Does it matter? Because obviously we're on about like how to make money from our books, and I think we've established that it's about the book has to link to your coaching business. Like you can't be a florist and write a book on cooking. Like it has to be like related to
Exactly.
whatever
Has
it is
to
that
be
you're doing.
aligned.
And you mentioned that
Yeah,
the
it
book has
has
to
to
be
speak.
written as well in a particular way.
Yeah, so right at the very beginning, they need to work out exactly why they're writing the book, exactly why. Not just because I want to help people and share my message, because even though, yes, we all want those things, of course we do, it's not enough. It's not enough. So what does that mean to you? What does being able to help people get your message out there mean for you? How is that going to change your life? Different aspects of that. So it's really figuring out exactly what they want from it. And then it then needs to align to their business and the topic that they're speaking on. And it needs to speak to the exact same audience that they're wanting to bring into their business. Now that sounds, well, yeah, that's obvious, but you'd be surprised because a lot of people don't do that. And I'm an example of this. Before I worked with a book coach, I was for 2.5 years trying to do all of these different things, trying to write a book and stopping and then starting another one. And when I did start working with my coach, I just started a novel. And then she was like, well, how is the novel going to help how is it going to solve this problem for your reader? And I'm like, oh. But it's because I hadn't thought of the deeper reasons.
Yeah.
And so that's the very first thing, I'm planning it. And then it needs to be aligned the whole way through. So everything needs to be something that they can learn from, relate to, that's going to drill in the points, and that's also gripping and entertaining. And I read a hell of a lot of books by unknown authors, and something that I find a lot is that it's some of them are great, and then there's also a lot where it's almost as though they haven't thought about the reader at all. It seems almost I don't know, like they'll just go into some big reminiscing about their favourite teacher at school and what they used to get for lunch and all of this stuff. And it just seems it's like, well, how's that going to help the reader, indulgence is the word I was looking for. It seems a bit indulgent, that they're happy, having these nice memories and they want to share them and stuff, but it's not relevant to the reader. And sometimes there's no process. It just seems like a bunch of words that have been thrown together. So it needs mapping out very, very carefully before even writing a single word.
So you touched on media quite a bit in terms of like we're able to then use that to then get clients, and it promotes the book at the same time, which promotes the business. So it all sort of feeds into the business side of things.
Exactly.
So touch on media a little bit for us. Talk about, not because obviously a lot of people try to do their own media. They try to do their own sort of PR and things. Some people go self-publishers, some people go through sort of a publishing house, but then there's different levels of publishing house. And talk to us a little bit about the PR side and what are some of the benefits that you can get by going through, because so if, as an example, right, you've got one person that self-publishes and wants to do all of their own media.
Yeah.
Then you've got someone that wants to self-publish, but wants to hire a PR company to get them into places they probably couldn't get in by themselves.
Yeah.
Then the third one, I should use the fingers. Third one is the person that goes to a publishing house whereby they get PR that's involved with the agreement of the book.
Yeah.
What's the difference between them, and like what benefits would a PR agent have? But then what's the difference between that and going through a publishing house? Like where's the dividing line? What are the pros and cons of each one?
Okay, so I do PR as well. So the difference is, the first one, if they do their own PR, and I think that's great, by the way, like if you're not ready to invest in a PR agency, then do your own PR, like definitely. And I think I love seeing people do that. I think it's a great thing that they're taking action. What does tend to happen with PR is that people seem to have unrealistic expectations of what might happen. So I'm going to compare it to social media because this is something that people are a lot more familiar with.
Yeah.
So if you were to put one post on Facebook and you'd never done anything before, would you expect an influx of clients from that one post? No. But then again, there's nothing to say that you won't. It does happen every now and again. Somebody might get lucky. They might put a post out there that gets a great reaction and they might get an influx of clients from it. But it's not what you expect. You expect to have to be consistent with it and for things to slowly build over time. That's the same with PR. Now, a lot of people get the wrong idea and they think as soon as they start PR, they're going to get an influx of clients and all of these massive things happening. But it's about the consistency. It's about showing up here, bam, 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 and doing that consistently. And the more you do it, the more it leads to more media and bigger stuff. Now, when I speak to people are like, well, I want to go on Oprah. Great, we all want to go on Oprah. What have you got to offer? What have you been on? And what a lot of people don't do, or what they don't have the patience to do, is to build it from the ground up. Yeah, you know, so it's something that takes time and consistency. And when people don't, and this is the benefit of going with a PR agency, whether that's with me or whether it's with somebody else, is that they don't need to worry about being consistent because it's being taken care of for them. Mm-hmm. And also that PR agency, do your research on them first, but they will have contacts. Now, I've been in the media for over a decade for various things. So I've already built a lot of contacts. So it's easier for me to get people through various doors than it is for them to do it themselves. And that should be the same, regardless of, you know, which PR agency you go with. They should have these contacts. They should be able to prove that they can get people through the door and that they can get people, not just things like syndicated press releases. Do you know what I mean with syndication? I'm gonna
where if you've been like, so different places will take articles from, so if you're published on, let's just say, Business Insider, Forbes might syndicate from Business Insider and Forbes might publish from Business Insider. Does that make sense? So is syndication where two outlets to kind of share articles to a certain degree?
I'm talking about syndication on a bigger scale. So for example, there's a lot of people who do this and I do it too. It's like you get a press release accepted by one site And as long as it's got past the gatekeepers there, it'll then be on hundreds of sites, on news sites, okay?
Right.
So they're really common. A lot of people do those, and they are what they are. They're syndicated pieces. They're great for backlinks and stuff like that. But that's only the very first step. Like, people aren't going to come and... It's different to having a feature in, say, the Metro or the Daily Mail or whatever. It's different to a journalist actually writing a feature. So a PR agency needs to not just do these syndicated pieces, though they are useful, but they are what they are. But they also need to be able to have these features that have been written by a journalist, that where they're getting maximum exposure, and they're harder to get.
Yeah. So where do the publishing houses come in? So you've got like self-publishing, you do everything. You do the book, but then the PR agency has a list of contacts that can get you into places that you can't do by yourself.
Yeah.
What's the benefit of going through a traditional publishing house?
Okay, so before I start speaking on this, I have never been with a traditional publisher. This is based on what I've been told from clients that have come to me. And I do have clients also working with publishers, but I've had clients who have worked with publishers and then they've decided to self-publish afterwards. So sometimes it works very well. What surprises most people is the bombshell, I guess, that they're still expected to market their own book. And in fact, they need their marketing plan before they're even considered, to get in with a publisher. So then they're like, well, why then? I guess. But the benefits of going with a publisher is that it comes to that perception. It's perceived, okay, my book's been accepted with a publisher. It gives people a boost. And it does give them that, what's the word I'm looking for? Credibility, that's the word. It gives credibility. Their book has been accepted by this amazing publisher. Wow, that's amazing. It's anybody can self-publish. Not everyone can self-publish well, yeah. But anybody could go. I mean, you could write a book about skips, publish it on Amazon. Anybody can do that, but not anybody could get that book published, accepted by a traditional publisher. So that's where the higher perception comes from. Mm-hmm. So personally, I choose to self-publish. And it's because, one, I don't have the patience to be looking for an agent and then looking for a publisher. It can take up to 2 years. I write a book. I want to get that book out there. I want to get that book working for me straight away. Okay, that's personally my reason. Also, what I've been told from other people who I've worked with publishers is that they felt like that there was a lot of loss of control. So they were using it. So I only work with people who are using their book to grow their business. But what they said was when they were working with the publishers, the title was changed, the cover was changed, the description was changed. And so it wasn't speaking to the person who they wanted to call into their business anymore. Now, that's not the publisher's fault. The publisher is focusing on maximum book sales. That's their job. They're doing their job well. But if you're using your book to grow your business, all of that needs to be in alignment.
Yeah.
But that's not the publisher's job to do that. No. And so two people have told me that they felt like there was a disconnect in the end between their book and calling in their clients.
Right, that just kind of makes sense, because if you think about what you help people with the book do. It's more about what they do after the book, where
Exactly.
the publisher doesn't really care that much about what they do after the book because they only benefit from the book sale.
Yeah, exactly. So, they're not doing it, they're doing their job right.
Yeah.
They're doing whatever they can for maximum book sales, and that's great. But one, how much of a percentage is that? How much per copy are you getting per book? And is it going to be better focusing on the end result? Say you've got a course that's £1,000 and you've got a book for 15 quid. Well, surely it makes more sense to do whatever it takes to get that book read, even if it means giving it away free and bringing people through that book and making a sale of £1,000. Or I work with people who have got like 100k packages. So, that's going to create more of an impact than focusing on selling as many book copies as possible.
Yeah, so it's almost like sometimes you're prepared to take the knock of, say, £200 or dollars to give the books away for free, but then if everyone's loving the book and wants to buy this 100k course from you or package from you, that can almost afford for you to give the book away for free.
Exactly. There's two ways of doing it. Okay, so if you've got clients or potential clients who are on the fence, I would say send them a paperback copy of your book. Have it addressed to their home, and they're much more likely to read it.
Yeah.
But you can use it as part of a funnel as well. And there's two ways of doing this. You can either, this is a really, really easy way, is of giving away a PDF copy of the book in return for some sort of opt-in, getting people onto your email address or whatever the funnel is. Cool. And that works very well. Best-selling full-length book has a hell of a lot more impact and a higher perceived value, talking about perception again, than an ebook. Yeah. So more people will opt into it, and then that's when the process goes from there. So this is why I'm saying a book doesn't replace marketing, media doesn't replace marketing. It all works together. So then you bring this book, you give it away free, and then you've got that person then in your space. It's up to you then to take them through your sales process and to convert them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if there's somebody on the edge, then I'd send them a paperback copy. PDF version, the thing is with that, if you use that in a funnel, there'll be a smaller percentage of people who actually read it. And I'm guilty of this. I download things left, right, and centre, and I forget about them. A lot of other people do too. I had a book delivered the other day, actually, that I only paid the postage for. It was a sales book. And I'd forgotten about it. It'd been months since I'd opted in, but this is the other way you can do it. And another way that works very well is to give the paperback copy free. So there are some costs involved there. You've still got to pay the printing costs, and they pay for their own postage. What that does is it means only the people who are really serious and really interested are going to opt in, because they do still have to pay something. So they're not paying for the book, but they are still paying something. Okay. Now, of those people, a higher percentage are going to read the book. And on testing for this, the final amount of, the end result, which is the sale, they were quite similar. I prefer the paperback version of events, and that's just because I love a paperback. Yeah. I'm much more likely to read a paperback, where if I download something, or even if it's on my Kindle, then I tend to forget about it.
This is the last sort of touch on the book side, because I'm conscious that we are getting dangerously close to the end. What about hardback books? Because we talk about paperback and ebooks all the time, and loads of people talk about it, but no one mentions hardback.
No one mentions hardbacks. Why are people not doing hardbacks? Do you know what? Do hardbacks. Stand out. Do a hardback. That was a really good question. If nobody else is doing it, then do it. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I haven't done a hardback. Hardbacks are a lot more, there's a lot more cost involved, with the print and stuff, and they sell so obviously that means a higher price.
yeah.
I've never done a hardback. So next time, I'm going to do a hardback.
Funny.
Yeah, so I don't have a clue is the answer why people don't do hardbacks.
Because it's
or not
so
as many.
obviously the one word that's gone throughout all this has been perception, right? The one word that's sort of, you're the best-selling author, epic. You're perceived as more valuable as someone that isn't. That unlocks doors for you. It's a great business card. You're the best-selling author. People that are like, do I want to work with this person? That can get them over the line sometimes.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I can't remember the last time anyone said buy the hardback.
No, I've been a book coach now for about 2 years. Nobody's ever said to me, I want to do a hardback book. It's never come up. This is literally the first time that I've ever had this conversation, and I'm a book coach.
Get in.
But I'll tell you something else as well, just before I forget. Audiobooks. Do audiobooks. If you're writing a book, do an audio version. And I think it's great when people record them themselves as well.
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations. I've been listening to a lot of conversations around books and things, and I can't remember who it was, but they said one author read out their own book, and then once the book started to take off, they had a voice actor record it. And he said that it was nowhere near as good as the author doing it. I think it is just the emotion behind it, because it means more to the author than it would do to the voice actor,
Exactly, and they might be a great voice actor, but it's never going to be the same. And it's if you know that as well, like if you know that it's somebody else reading it, I guess there's a bit of a disconnect, isn't there? Like if somebody else was telling my story and they were saying this happened to me, there'd be a bit of a disconnect there, and it probably wouldn't even be conscious.
I guess as well, if I wanted to do an audio book, I'd put bonus stuff in. I wouldn't just read the book out loud. I'd do like things in.
I listened to Grant Cardone's one, the 10X one. I listened to that a few months back, and he does that in that book, and it always made me laugh. Always made me laugh because you can tell that, he's just gone off on one. Now he's back to the book. And it was good. It created some magic, and you kind of think, I'm getting more here. Yeah. So audiobooks are great because people generally now are very, very busy. And so I love to read books. A lot of people love to read, but also they might want the information when they're in the gym. I love listening to an audiobook while I'm in the gym or going for a walk. Yeah. So it's great to have that option. And the way they link, I think, is fantastic. Like you can read say it's on the Kindle, you can read for as long as you want. And then you can go for a walk, you can stick your headphones in, and it keeps the place for you. Like, it's great. Everyone should be doing audiobooks.
Love it. Yeah, definitely. I think I think people need to understand, hopefully it's coming across in what we're talking about, that you got to work hard for the book, but you spend the majority of your time after the book. Like you spend most of your effort comes from the media, comes from the social media, comes from the marketing, comes from all kinds. It's not like, it's almost like the book is the start of it, isn't it? So it's not like it isn't the end point, is it?
Oh God, people write the book and they're like, I'm done. No, you're just beginning. This is literally your first step. Now, I don't talk about this often, but I always talk about, my first best-selling book. That was Passion to Freedom. And the reason I talk about that one more than any of the others is because that's what gave me my big shift. Now, but I did actually release 2 books before then, and they did absolutely nothing because I didn't know what I was doing. I just wrote it, not planning or anything. I stuck them on Amazon, and I thought they'd be flying off the shelves. I think I sold 100 copies max. No, it was around 100. And most of those were, people who I was already working with, because I had a lot of students at the acting academy.
Yes.
So, it's not, you don't just, you need a plan and you need to think from the outcome and then work back. But yeah, everything works together. The book helps you with getting into the media. The media helps you with getting more clients. It's like, I'm going to steal a term from Richard Fletcher now, the ecosystem. It's like it goes into this ecosystem where everything's feeding each other. And that's what keeps it sustainable. Now, if we talk about social media, for example, I adore social media. I've got a heavy online presence, but I'm not in control of that. Mark Z, he could tomorrow decide to shut down Facebook. Don't see why you would. But, you can make some decision to change the rules, move the goalposts and do all this crazy stuff, which they do quite regularly. But, something could happen that makes it a lot more challenging to be seen on there, which they've done that, with the Facebook business pages, haven't they? There's hardly any reach unless you pay for ads and whatever, so there's always going to be things like that where you're not in control of it. So it's good to have these other things, the book, the media. And I also think it's a great thing to have things like your own podcast or radio shows, TV shows, all of that stuff. It also becomes part of keeping the business sustainable and not relying just on that one thing. And a lot of people get stuck with just using social media. And, I'm not against that. It's great. I've had great results from social media, but don't let it be the only thing.
It's a good point that you mentioned, like media in the book and everything, because when you mention like Facebook can change any minute, Instagram could change any minute, but the book and the media and things, they're all things you can control. They're all things, it's based on what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
You're more in control to a certain extent. So I like that. It's quite a cool way to finish.
Yeah, exactly. And the media stuff, it can be used for a lifetime as well. It's what we were saying, that finishing the book and they think, yay, I'm done. But it's the same with going for media appearances. Say you go for a TV interview, that's only the beginning. You can use that TV interview for a lifetime as part of your marketing strategy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's how it's done. And that's how business does become sustainable.
Nicely put. Where can people learn more about you? So if people wanted to get involved with what you're up to, where can people go?
Easiest way is Facebook, Luana Ribeira. I'm always on there. Shoot me a message. I'm always happy to talk.
All right, awesome. Well, Luana, thanks for coming on. I appreciate the time and I look forward to keeping in touch.
Thank you.